Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with a bit of a slight difference to the match reaction, not an instant reaction because I was at the game, and as you can tell, my voice is slightly hoarse, a bit of a sore throat from previous to the match and also from shouting and singing so much at the game yesterday. What a brilliant day, what a brilliant match. Please do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Help us continue on the march to 6,000 subscribers. Get your comments in as well. Your thoughts on yesterday's game after, reflecting on what happened, the ebb and flow of the game. It was a real end-to-end game, a real game of two halves, if that's not too much of a cliche. And I just wanted to talk about some of the kind of key points and the key things that were sort of going through my mind during and after the game, kind of thinking about it. And I guess the first major one was just the number of changes that we were able to make and the quality of the squad that we now have. 8 changes to that starting 11. And you're looking at that bench, and not only the bench, the players that haven't quite made the squad through injury or through just not being selected. I mean, the first 11 that was out yesterday, and as we were watching it, watching it on coming through on social media, it was a bit of a surprise, but also excitement in terms of what can these players show. Martinez, obviously ever present, but then Garcia, Disasi, Mings and Matson, completely different back four. Onana coming in for his first start in a while. Yuri Tillemans, obviously ever present. Asensio in front of them, and then Donyell Malen, who Villa fans have been crying for a start and for him to get an opportunity. Obviously scored against Brighton, which was fantastic, and more on him in a bit. Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins. So still a fantastic side. And then you factor in Matty Cash, Ezri Konsa, Pau Torres, Luca Dean, John McGinn, Boubacar Kamara, Marcus Rashford and Jacob Ramsey on the bench. And you are looking at an absolutely frightening squad. Leon Bailey not quite fit enough. Ross Barkley not in the squad. Lamar Bogard, who's been really valuable in certain times in the season, also not playing. So looking at that quality of squad, and we've talked about this on numerous shows, really is an absolutely huge opportunity, because not only does it give Unai Emery options of what to use in terms of different games and different tactical plans, it also gives him the ability to change the team if it's not working or if he needs to tactically tweak things, which we'll come on to in a bit. He obviously needed to do in this game. And it also means that the players need to continue to play and need to do exactly what they've been asked to do. And that's on them to kind of do that, because they know that someone is going to come in and is going to put pressure on them for their spot. So Jacob Ramsey needs to get on the ball and he needs to attack. Morgan Rogers needs to continue doing what he's doing. Marcus Rashford needs to come on and make an impact. Yuri Tillemans needs to keep being consistent in that midfield. Amadou Onana needs to come on and do exactly what he's been told to do. Break up play, drive with the ball. The defence, they need to win headers, win tackles. The fullbacks need to be solid, stop crosses. All of those things that they need to do, because someone else is equally as good, if not better than them in certain areas, to come on. So it's only benefiting the squad. And we have a huge number of games in a short period of time. We're seeing players having minutes managed. We're seeing them being brought off with 20 minutes to go and changes being made or not necessarily starting. And this is breeding this winning mentality. And for the players who came in yesterday to do so well, particularly in that first half, just shows you how much they're chomping at the bit to play. And that comes to my second point, the fast start. We talked about Villa not really having this season, kind of being a bit more methodical, a bit more measured in their approach. But yesterday was a totally different style. And that was partly due to Nottingham Forest's tactical plan. But I don't necessarily thought that they they read that we would play Garcia and Maatsen as the fullbacks, because maybe they were thinking we'd play Cash and Luca Dean, which might meant that we wouldn't have gone forward as much potentially with driving with the ball, because Garcia and Maatsen are very good 1v1, very good at attacking the ball. Dina and Cash, particularly Luca Dean, is better at drifting into that space to then, make the overlap to then put a cross in. He's not great at 1v1 attacking, but we saw how good Garcia was, and we certainly saw how good Ian Maatsen was at that. And that's where they left the space, which was fantastic for us because it meant they could drive with the ball. Then it meant a midfielder had to go out and tackle them, which left space in there for Yuri Tillemans or for Amadou Onana, or it meant that one of our wider players, i.e. Rogers or Malen, could drop into the hole and then play the ball in behind their defence, which absolutely played into our hands. Morgan Rogers with a phenomenal first goal. Quick free kick, Onana to Tielemans, chipped over the top. Beautiful touch by Rogers. And that celebration now is his celebration. Forget Cole Palmer. Who's Cole Palmer? It's Morgan Rogers' celebration, 100%. 13 goals this season in all competitions now. Absolutely incredible season for him. And he had a really good game as well yesterday. I thought he really battled well. And then Donyell Malen, such a threat, getting more minutes, getting his fitness, and, great goal. And we saw, again, the ability for Maatsen at 1v1 against a defender, turns him inside out, beautiful pick out. And the way that Malen moved his body to get that finish, fantastic finish. And 15 minutes in, absolutely fantastic, 2-0 up. And then we're kind of controlling it from there. Really, really good play. And yeah, great half from us. But I guess it takes me to my third point in terms of the second half. Obviously, Nottingham Forest really, they couldn't do anything other than change it. They've been absolutely dominated in that first half. Yes, they had a couple of half chances, but in terms of possession, in terms of tactical plan, in terms of space that they were leaving, it was a horror show for them. So they obviously went man to man, and it was a risk they were willing to take. And probably physically, they still had the strength over us in terms of physicality. They just gave us too much space, but they knew that if they stepped onto us physically, apart from maybe Onana, Desassi, and Tyra Mings, they probably had the physicality over us. What I couldn't get over and what I couldn't understand was when we were playing the longer pass from Martinez, and you could see that the four attackers for Forest pushed right on our four defenders, fine. They pushed onto our midfielders, fine. Then our four attacking players, particularly at the beginning of that first half, were Asensio, Watkins, Rogers, and Malen. Now, usually to beat that press, to beat that man-to-man, what you need to do as the attacking team or the team that's against that man-to-man is move and switch positions, because then you create confusion, because does that player stick with the man or does the player mark space? And that's where you can capitalize on that confusion. So I couldn't understand why we were just playing long balls to Ollie Watkins when he's marked by a 6'5" Milenkovic, who Ollie Watkins is not going to be able to compete with him. And not only that, because your midfielders are so deep, when he wins that header, that's just going to go straight to a Nottingham Forest player who's then able to turn on the attack because our midfield is too far off. What I couldn't understand is why, and this is coaching 101, why if Ollie Watkins drops deep to receive the ball, if Milenkovic doesn't follow him, he can have it. If he drops deep, Asensio can go in behind, and then Asensio could get the ball in behind. Or if Watkins drops deep and Milenkovic follows him, then you have one of Donyell Malen or Morgan Rogers diagonally running in behind him to then capitalise on the space, because you've then got more opportunity. Or you have Ollie Watkins, who loves running the channels, spinning and running into one of the channels. If it's Morgan Rogers' side, then Rogers switches with him and runs into the middle. Or if it's Marlen's side, then Malen switches and runs into the middle. And again, you catch Nottingham Forest out on that switch. I can't understand why we didn't move, why we tried to engage with them 1v1 on those situations, longer ball situations, because Morgan Rogers struggled sometimes against Murillo. And then when he's bringing it down, they're 2v1 against him. and then he's losing the ball. And Forest, because they just want to attack, are going to push forward and attack and attack and attack. And that was what was confusing to me. I couldn't understand why we didn't do that. And we put ourselves under unnecessary pressure. And maybe teams now are going to look at that. And if Villa go 1-0 up or 2-0 up, because there are teams that are thinking, well, we might as well try and go and win this game. We might as well lose 3-0 or 4-0 but try and win it 3-2. They're going to go 1v1 against us. And that was a bit of a frustration. I guess the next point in terms of that was some of the players really did hit a wall. And sometimes managing these players back to fitness is a little bit more difficult than we think, because the level that they played in that first half was phenomenal. Malen, Onana, not so much Ollie Watkins, but you could visibly see how they dropped at 60 minutes and they really hit a wall. Onana, I don't think, could really cover too much ground in that second half because he'd done so much in the first half. He played so well. And then, he's coming back to fitness. Marlon really faded in that second half, partly because we couldn't get him the ball, but partly because he wasn't making the runs that he was making in that first half. And yes, Ollie Watkins really struggled kind of to get into the game all game, but certainly in that second half. So that's something as well. And I'm sure they'll get minutes. Asensio faded as well in that second half, but Asensio is more the type of player who will drift in and out of games, but will pop up with a goal, will pop up with a phenomenal pass, or do something that you take your eye off the ball with him, and he does something out of absolutely nothing, which you have to kind of keep a mind of that. But that was interesting. But because we've got this great squad, because we have these players that you bring on the likes of Boubacar Kamara, Marcus Rashford, Ezri Konsa, John McGinn, who did a great job in that midfield. So that was really pleasing to see. And look, we managed the game well. There was parts in that second half where you thought Nottingham Forest were going to really come back into it, and it was probably their poor finishing that let Villa off the hook. 19 shots or 18 or 19 shots they had, only 3 on target. Villa 17 shots with 8 on target. So you would suggest that, had Nottingham Forest had their shooting boots on, they really should have scored more goals. But equally, Villa really should have put that game to bed. Marcus Rashford had a really good chance. Marco Asensio had a good opportunity, a couple of good opportunities, but particularly in that second half where the goalkeeper did really well. Morgan Rogers had a phenomenal opportunity where he probably should have squared it to Rashford, but once he beats that defender, you've probably got to take the shot. But that was a great save, and then there was a couple of efforts flashed across the box. So Villa really should have put it to bed. But yeah, all in all, I think it was a really good game, 2 very, very good teams, and potentially sets up, if both teams get the result in the FA Cup, could set up a really, really good FA Cup final. But as Villa, if Nottingham Forest do face them in the FA Cup final, need to pay attention to that man v man, that man-to-man marking, because, as I say, how you get around it is movement. And in that second half, we didn't really have enough movement. We kind of tried to pinch the ball and then utilise maybe Ramsey a little bit on the break, which he did okay. Or we tried to keep doing that long ball and hoping that Forest missed the header or missed the opportunity, and that's a bit too risky. You've got to beat that with movement. But like I say, fantastic victory, takes us up to 6th in the table, above Newcastle at the moment, which is very pleasing to myself, and takes us into PSG on Wednesday in great form, 7 wins in a row in all competitions. If we can stay in the tie, take them back to Villa Park, that'll be fantastic. And then, a game against Southampton next Saturday that we really should be winning, regardless of the team that we put out, really should be winning that. So fantastic opportunity to really cement our spot in that Champions League charge. That's it from me. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, help us on the road to 6,000 subscribers. It was fantastic to see some of you guys who watched the channel saying hello to me yesterday. Brilliant stuff. So thank you for your support, and yeah, keep doing it. Keep supporting. Great stuff. We'll be back later on for Talking Tactics and Lions Raw full match reaction, and also PSG preview as well to come. So loads to come on the channel. Thank you for watching, and as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.